welcome to the show, and before we get to it, be sure to subscribe to us over on our Patreon, where you can take part in episode polls, see Cinema Snob episodes in advance, like sections of our upcoming supersized episode on 1983 in film. That's all over at patreon.com/thecinemasnob, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification button as well.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about Mafia Mamma right now. This movie, it comes out next week. I don't know how many of you guys have Regal theaters near you, but they've been doing a thing that I love that's called the Monday Mystery Movie. And now it's kind of gotten to the point to where they do it about every other week. I got one coming up next week too, I think. And they've done several. I've missed 2 of them. But usually when I go see one of them, usually the movie turns out to be like kind of mediocre. But I like going to see, like, I don't know what this movie is going to be until it starts. And now they're starting to get more and more and more like really mainstream movies in there that are popping up for early screenings. So, and it's only $5 too. There's a Regal close to us. The Regal Unlimited plan is the best out of all the movie theater chain plans, by the way. $20. I go see a lot. I go see a lot during the week. And look into your Regal theaters for this, because the mystery movie is pretty fun. The first one was the greatest beer run ever. And it's always fun guessing, because I'm always wrong. Every single time, except this time, but every single time I'm always wrong on what it's going to be. And especially if you sort of know what's coming out in the next week or two, and yet I was still always wrong. So, the one the other day, I was guessing Mafia Mamma. Laura asked me, she goes, what do you think it's going to be? Somebody like Doug was asking me this too, and I go, I always prefaced it with, I am always wrong. I'm still like optimistic about a lot of things. So when the movie started and it was Mafia Mamma, I texted Laura. I go, it's Mafia Mamma. Laura writes back, yay, you got one right, as if she's patting me on the head through the phone. Text Doug. I'm like, yep, it's Mafia Mamma. He's like, oh, haha, good luck. I'm like, maybe it'll be all right. If you don't know what Mafia Mamma is, this was one I was curious about, only in the sense of having seen Toni Collette in plenty of hard dramas or horror films recently. So I'm like, all right, well, this is a light-looking movie, you know, going all in on the comedy, like it's an updated Married to the Mob or Mob Boss with Eddie Deason. This is the one where Toni Collette finds out her grandfather has passed away. So she goes to Italy for the funeral and then finds out that her family has mafia ties and she is now the new Don. It's the perfect movie for the tagline, soccer mom meets fill in the blank. Oh, so when I thought of that joke, by the way, when I was taking my notes earlier, I didn't know that is pretty much the actual tagline for this movie. I just wrote that as like, oh, movies like this usually have a tagline like that. Oh, well, it kind of is that exact same tagline. I guess I'm glad that I got this out of the way early, because Mafia Mamma, it's no Johnny Dangerously. This movie is really bad. When I left the theater, I did text Doug back and I go, you were right. It was pretty bad. It feels like there were a few writers on this. And again, I don't know if this is the case. It's just what it feels like. It feels like there was a few writers on this, each wanting different styles of comedy. So they just put all of those styles together, and it fascinatingly didn't work. On the one end, it's like a sitcom that's decades old. The gangster henchmen act like mobsters you'd see on an episode of Saved by the Bell or Family Matters. The Don will be recording a video, and the henchmen are bumbling and knocking over shit in the background. They simultaneously spit if they hear something they don't like. They curse at Toni Collette in Italian when she says she hasn't seen The Godfather, and that's a running joke, her not seeing The Godfather, and everyone yelling at her in Italian about it. Then there's jokes like, you want limoncello? No thanks, I only eat cherry jello. That's one of the only jokes I can remember about it. Then this movie is also, it's total wine mom porn. Wine is in this movie more than Monica Bellucci is, and Monica Bellucci is in this movie a lot, but I guarantee there are more scenes with wine and people talking about wine. Like, at least Sideways was about wine. This wine is just there. Wine is on the poster for this movie. I saw on Twitter the other day there was like some promo code or something with some wine company that's a tie-in for this. So sure, yeah, if you're finally tired of sitting at home with your wine, watching the Hallmark Christmas movies still, and you want to watch something else, well, here you go. Here's Mafia Mamma. You can go out in theaters, sneak in some wine in a can. It's a wine mom fantasy film. Like if Sex and the City 2 had gangsters in it. Now, I'm not saying that automatically makes it bad. I'm just saying this is not a good example of one of those movies. She has a loser husband, goes to Italy, sightsees, mentions Eat, Pray, Love a lot, hooks up with a devilishly handsome stranger she meets instantly. And if she isn't drinking wine, she's talking about it, or both, or all of that. It makes it feel like something that is about 20 years old. And here's the funniest thing about this movie. Here's what made it fascinating, is that throughout all of that, it has got some of the most wildly graphic violence I've seen all year. For something that I've been comparing to a sitcom, or to Hallmark, or Sex and the City 2, or things like that. This movie is like if mobsters and Mormons had the violence of Casino. Let me give you an example of one scene. It tries doing commentary on like sexism in the workplace, but in a way that, again, I've seen this exact same scenario on like a sitcom in the late 1990s. Like, she works for an advertising company, and when she's in Italy, she's on Zoom giving a pitch to like her boss and like the two like dudes who are sitting there. And so she's pitching, she's put a lot of work into this project that she's pitching, and the old guy boss is like having none of it and just like, you put too much work into all this. This is boring. It's putting me to sleep. And then the younger guy will be like, what about this one I made? It's a girl in a bikini on a jet ski. Old boss is like, that's brilliant. That's the kind of like commentary we're working with right here. While the boss and the two guys at the advertising agency, while they're staring at the bikini woman on the jet ski on Toni Collette's end, and none of them in the boardroom see this, a hitman comes up behind her, tackles her, grabs her. She takes her stiletto heels, not only jams it in his eye sockets, but it zooms in on it. You see the eyeball come out of the socket, and when that eye is done and it's spurting blood everywhere, goes into the other eye. It is like you are watching this comedy made for my grandma, and then Lucio Fulci took over directing for a couple of scenes, because there is eye mutilation in this where the eyeballs are just sitting on the ground. And then it'll do gross out scenes, like when one guy tries poisoning her at one point. So he sneaks a poison capsule up his ass. She goes to the bathroom because they're about to have sex, and then he's he spends so many minutes trying to pull this out of his ass, and they add fart sounds to it. He poisons a drink, yada yada yada. Drinks get switched. So Toni Collette just sees his dead body, like vomits everywhere. She's trying to talk on the phone, drops her phone in the vomits just dripping off of it. I'm like, who is this movie for? There are so many different styles of comedy here, and none of them are geared towards the same person. That's what made this a kind of fascinatingly bad watch, but not in a way that I was really sitting there entertained necessarily, just in a way where I just want to see what the writer's room of this movie was like. And I know that you're not expecting a lot of twists out of a movie like this. It's formulaic, but it is a lot of different formulas that come together that make the soda just spray out of the Diet Coke bottle. It does have predictable characters, but in a way that's kind of annoying because so much else about the movie isn't working. You'll have characters that pop up. You'll know right away that, like, this person's going to turn out to be something else. This one's going to do this one's going to do that. And when that happens a lot, and then they play these reveals like it's supposed to be a big surprise, it already does kind of add to a movie that's not very good. This movie's bad. It's really, really, really bad. But Toni Collette was good in it. It was weird seeing her in a movie like this, but she was good in it. It's uniquely bad. I don't know, maybe if you want to see a bad movie and you get drunk on some wine, actually, you might have an all right time at this movie. I'll give it a D+ because Toni Collette was all right in it. But as far as, like, movies like this that are kind of a fantasy, that have to do with tours, especially of Italy, and then bring gangsters into it, I mean, it's not as bottom of the barrel as the 365 Days movies. I'll give it that. There actually is a plot here. There's several, as a matter of fact. The 365 Days trilogy was 3 movies that each said nothing. This is kind of 3 movies in one movie. I'm not saying that those movies work, the 3 styles of comedy that this movie does, but I mean, they were trying. They were more than just music and montages. So that was Mafia Mamma.